Today on Sports Central, we go for a college football bowl preview and prediction on the 2021 Holiday Bowl matchup between the UCLA Bruins and the NC State Wolfpack. Both teams have had good seasons to this point. UCLA being one of the top teams in the Pac-12 this 2021 season. They've had a great year, that's for sure, and they're playing off against NC State, one of the top teams in the ACC. Should make for a good one. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. UCLA beat Cal 42-14 was the final score there, final game of the regular season, and the Bruins got the win there. They're actually on a 3-game winning streak here down the stretch. In November, they've played excellent. They beat Colorado 44-20, beat USC 62-33, scored up 60 on the Trojans there, and also beat Cal once again 42-14. So not a bad finish here for UCLA. They're 8-4 heading into this matchup, and considerably one of the top teams in the Pac-12. I mean, you got Oregon in there, you've got Utah, Arizona State, and UCLA. I'd say those are your big four in the Pac-12. As for NC State, beat North Carolina, the rival, 34-30. Solid win to finish out the season there against a good football team, and they've got a 2-game winning streak heading into this matchup. They played pretty well down the stretch, and they're 9-3 heading into this matchup, currently ranked number 18 in the nation. And as I said, NC State is also one of the top teams in the ACC. I'd say, this team is probably the second best team, or I'd say probably third best team in the ACC. You got Pitt, of course, who won. You got Wake Forest right behind them, and then NC State, and you can consider Clemson as well, part of that big four in the ACC. But yeah, NC State, they've had an excellent season up to this point. Game will be on Tuesday, December 28th, San Diego, California. Kickoff time is 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going with NC State here by 1, so just about as close as it gets there on the spread. Basically a coin toss, which isn't surprising. Both teams are pretty evenly matched. This is a good matchup between two good football teams, and your over-under is 59.5. FPI is going NC State here, 58.3%. So we get more of a significant favor there towards NC State on the FPI. But series history, UCLA leads at 2-0, but the last game was in 1960, so it's been like 5 decades since we last saw, 6 decades since we last saw these two teams play each other. Here's your stat comparison for this game. UCLA, 36 points per game, so offensively they've done just fine this football season, 26 points allowed. 226 passers a game, 215 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, you got 260 passing. So pass defense has been a bit of an issue statistically for UCLA this season. Going up against passing hasn't been the best form of defense for UCLA, but they've allowed 124 rush yards a game, which isn't a terrible stat there. As for NC State, 33 points per game, 19 points allowed, 288 passers a game, 126 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, you got 207 passing, 124 for rushing. So both teams are somewhat similar. NC State's stats as a whole are slightly better, you could argue, than UCLA's. NC State's defensive stats are better, but UCLA's offensive stats are better. So you could go either way there. But yeah, on both sides, still, both teams have had good seasons. And looking at some recent matchups as well, you can see UCLA beat Cal 42-14, beat USC. That was a huge win, 62-33 on the road. Beat Colorado 44-20. Did lose to Utah there by 20. 24-44, and also lost to Oregon by 3. Tough loss there. 34-31 was the final score there. UCLA, they've had, a somewhat tough schedule. If you look at them down the stretch, they played LSU back in week 2, which would have been week 1, but it was their second game. Beat them by 11, 38-27. So, that was a huge win. Beat Stanford as well, 35-24. Beat Arizona, beat Washington as well. So down the stretch, they've played pretty well. Their losses are to Fresno State, Arizona State, Oregon, and then Utah. So no terrible loss on the schedule. They did get beat up pretty bad by Arizona State back in early October, but otherwise lost to Utah as well by 20. But yeah, UCLA, they've played pretty well over the course of the season. As for NC State, beat North Carolina 34-30. Beat Syracuse as well, 41-17. That was a good win. Lost to Wake Forest by 3, number 12 team in the nation at the time. Beat Florida State and Louisville as well. So overall, they've played pretty well as well. Both teams are pretty consistent heading into this matchup. Both teams don't have any terrible, horrendous loss. UCLA lost a couple of games by 20 or so, but that's not the worst it could be. As for NC State, they really haven't taken a blowout loss. They lost to Mississippi State by 14 back in the earlier parts of the season. Lost to Miami by 1. Lost to Wake Forest by 3. So overall, schedule-wise, NC State has played better, and they got a better record as well, 9-3 versus 8-4 here, heading into this matchup. And I mean, both teams' schedules, I mean, the strength of schedule is pretty similar between these two teams. Like, I mean, if you look at NC State, they've played two ranked teams down the stretch. Clemson, they were number 9 when NC State beat them, which was considered a major upset at the time, but NC State did beat them by 6. They beat Boston College 33-7, lost to Wake Forest by 3 there, but beat North Carolina and beat Louisville, Florida State, etc. So, yeah, both teams down the stretch have been pretty consistent. Some key points for this one: UCLA 8-4 offensively. They have been promising. They have played a pretty good season overall. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, has had a good season for UCLA. It's been a little bit underwhelming, I would say. I mean, I think this UCLA football team could have gone a lot. Like, this team could have been definitely, I think, 10-2 or 11-1 with them. Like, that's what I was saying in the preseason was, I mean, DTR was a major threat to the Pac-12, but I mean, he's been a good quarterback, 2,400 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks, but his yardage and his numbers aren't quite as good as I would have figured. But Devin Leary, on the flip side, he has had a great year, 3,400 yards, 35 touchdowns, 5 picks. He has been a surprise quarterback. He's played excellent for the Wolfpack in this 2021 season. So definitely, he's a major impact player in this matchup. But for UCLA, unfortunately, pass defense, it has been a weakness here for UCLA. And going up against Devin Leary in this pass-heavy offense, I mean, that's going to be kind of a concern here for UCLA is going up against NC State's Devin Leary. And, I mean, they've averaged like 300 pass yards a game this football season, which is a pretty high number. So, mainly a pass offense here in NC State going up against a somewhat weak pass defense in UCLA. That will be a bit of a concern here for the Bruins. But quality wins for the Bruins include LSU, USC, and Cal. But as for NC State, you got Clemson, Louisville, and North Carolina. So, somewhat equal there on the quality win scale. But yeah, Devin Leary has had a great season. Definitely a player to watch out for here. And yeah, it should make for a good matchup. But that being said, let's get to the prediction here for UCLA and NC State Holiday Bowl. I'm going to go Wolfpack here, 34-31. Tough one to predict here. I mean, this one could go either way, certainly. I mean, it's a 1-point spread. So basically a coin toss for this matchup. I just feel like the Wolfpack in the end, I just feel like NC State gets the slight edge here based off of their passing game. And that's what I mentioned before. Devin Leary in this offense going up against a somewhat mediocre pass defense in UCLA. I think that's what gives NC State the edge here in this matchup. And they get the win barely by a field goal. 34-31 is what I'm thinking for the final score. So I do expect to take the over. I do expect the over hits in this matchup with about 65 points or so, which is slightly over the over-under there at 59.5. But NC State, I just feel like, once again, they barely get the edge here in this matchup. I'm going to go 51%. I rarely use a 51%. Usually it's like 55 or 60%, but I mean, this one especially is going to be a close game. So I'm expecting it to be very close. But that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. And I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you later.